What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Johnny, back here with another reaction video. Switching it up a little bit with this one. Shout out to the subs for sending me this one. Another subscriber request. This one is a reaction to a clip from George Orwell and How Freedom Dies. One of my favorite books of 1984. If you have not read it, I definitely recommend you check it out. And I think the only mistake that he made was he did not name this book 2021. Or maybe 2020/2021 or 2020 and beyond or something, because it's so accurate and it's almost neck level scary how all these years ago they knew what was coming for humans. Another one is Brave New World, but I'll check in and see if I can find some clips on that one to react to as well. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you could hit the like button for me, and if you could also consider subscribing to the channel. I've always said I'm trying to get 1 million subscribers, but if we can get 100 million subscribers and start 100 million thought-provoking conversation, I think we can change the narrative that's going around the world today. The media makes it like we're extremely divided, but we're all just spirits and bodies trying to figure out this human experience we're having. So if you like what you hear in the video, please share it far and wide.
George Orwell's writings have experienced a spike in popularity over the past decade, and for a simple reason. Modern societies are becoming ever more like the dystopia depicted in Orwell's most famous book, 1984. Whether it be mass surveillance, the incessant use of propaganda, perpetual war, or the cult of personality surrounding political leaders, it is not surprising that many see Orwell's novel as prescient in many ways. With that said, the West remains much freer than the dystopian society of 1984, but the trend does not bode well for those who favor a free society. Orwell, in fact, believed that totalitarianism of the type he satirized in his novel was a distinct possibility for the West, and at times he went as far as to suggest that it may in fact be inevitable. Almost certainly, he wrote in 1940, we are moving into an age of totalitarian dictatorships. In this video, we will look at what caused Orwell's pessimism, focusing on two trends in particular, the move toward collectivism and the rise of hedonism. Collectivism is a doctrine or set of ideologies in which the goals of a certain collective, such as a state, a nation, or a society, are given precedence over the goals of individuals. Socialism, communism, nationalism, and fascism are all collectivist ideologies. Orwell believed that a precondition for the rise of totalitarianism was the emergence of a collectivist social structure, as this permits the centralization of power needed to exert total societal control.
A thought that always goes to my head, and someone can leave a comment if what they think. I always wondered, did Martin Luther King understand he was leading Black Americans into government control? Like the whole movement out of slavery was to be an individual, to be recognized as an American individual. I just always wonder, did he ever stop to know? Did he ponder? Or was it a backdoor move that was pulled over his head that he didn't even see, that the whole civil rights movement was leading into mass slavery 2.0? Because you can listen to Manning Johnson, Color, Communism, and Common Sense, and Manning Johnson said he knew that the civil rights movement was a setup. And he was in the military, he was an undercover communist for a while, and all that. So it's just, how did that information skip past Martin Luther King is what I wonder. And everyone can leave their comments below and let me know how you feel about that.
Orwell's view of the connection between totalitarianism and collectivism has proved puzzling, as Orwell was a staunch leftist, a critic of capitalism, and a socialist. How could someone who favored socialism, a collectivist ideology, at the same time write a dystopian novel which portrays a collectivist society in such a horrific manner? To understand his position, it must first be realized that Orwell did not consider capitalism to be a viable system. It is not certain that socialism is in all ways superior to capitalism, he wrote, but it is certain that, unlike capitalism, it can solve the problems of production and consumption. Capitalism was such an inadequate system in Orwell's mind that, like many leftists of his day, he believed that it was on its deathbed and would soon be replaced by some form of collectivism.
Why has everyone always hated capitalism? That's something else that I don't understand. If you could let me know in the comments as well, I would appreciate that, because socialism hasn't worked anywhere. It's literally never worked, and America has produced more millionaires and billionaires, and people are still getting rich, and anyone can be rich. I mean, I grew up in a homeless shelter, and I'm living a pretty good life right now. So I'm so confused on why this system is so hated? Just let me know in the comments if you could, please.
He saw this as inevitable. The issue for Orwell was what type of collectivism would take its place. The real question, he wrote, is whether capitalism, now obviously doomed, is to give way to oligarchy, totalitarianism, or to true democracy, democratic socialism. Following the impending death of capitalism, Orwell hoped that democratic socialism would be adopted in the West. Democratic socialists, like Orwell, advocated for a centrally planned economy, nationalization of all major industry, and a radical decrease in wealth inequality. They were also strong supporters of civil liberties such as freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, which they hoped could be maintained in a society which would largely deprive people of their economic freedoms. The problem, however, which Orwell and other socialists had to grapple with were the lack of examples, either past or present, of any countries successfully adopting democratic socialism. Even worse, the states that had turned to collectivism in the first half of the 20th century, such as Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, were becoming increasingly totalitarian. They were adopting what Orwell called oligarchical collectivism, not democratic socialism. Oligarchical collectivism is a system in which an elite few, under the guise of a certain collectivist ideology, centralize power using force and deception. Once in power, these oligarchs crush not only the economic freedoms of their citizens, a move which socialists like Orwell favored, but also their civil liberties. Orwell was concerned that following the death of capitalism, the entire Western world would perhaps succumb to oligarchical collectivism. This fear was in part due to his perception that hedonism was on the rise in Western societies. Hedonism is an ethical position that maintains that life's ultimate goal should be the maximization of pleasure and the minimization of pain and discomfort.
Is that not America right now, or what? Does everybody just want to party and drink and twerk and make TikTok videos, and life is too stressful and I don't want to go to class, and just society is falling apart in a crazy way, and we need structure. We need discipline. I always say, man, self-discipline equals freedom. If you can discipline yourself, you don't need anyone to tell you what to do ever in life. Oh, but if you can't discipline yourself, there are a million people who want to tell you what to do.
In an increasingly urban and consumerist West, Orwell believed that many people were structuring their lives in a hedonistic manner, and this did not bode well for the freedom of Western civilization. A hedonistic lifestyle, according to Orwell, weakens people. It makes them feeble and incapable of mounting any resistance to fanatical ideologues who desire to rule over society. This fear of Orwell's has proven unfounded up to this point. While the West, since his death in 1950, has in many respects become more hedonistic, this has not led to totalitarian dictators taking over control. Rather, Aldous Huxley, the author of another famous 20th century dystopian novel, Brave New World, may have had a better grasp of the way Western societies would become enslaved in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Huxley, like Orwell, was an anti-hedonist, but his aversion to hedonism differed from Orwell's. Huxley's main concern was that hedonism could be used as an effective tool to oppress a society, because people will willingly forego freedom in exchange for sensory pleasure and endless consumption. If a society can be structured so that people can devote much of their time to pursuing pleasures, gratifying material wants, and even drugging themselves to escape from reality, then persuasion and conditioning, rather than physical coercion, will be sufficient to exert extreme control over a society. Neil Postman, in his book Amusing Ourselves to Death, nicely contrasts the differing fears of Orwell and Huxley. What Orwell feared were those who would ban books. What Huxley feared was that there would be no reason to ban a book, for there would be no one who wanted to read one.
True.
Orwell feared that the truth would be concealed from us. Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Orwell feared we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture. In 1984, people are controlled by inflicting pain. In Brave New World, they are controlled by inflicting pleasure. In short, Orwell feared that what we fear will ruin us. Huxley feared that what we desire will ruin us. The West, it seems, finds itself in a situation somewhat analogous to what Huxley feared. For like the proverbial frog in boiling water, citizens in the West accept greater and greater intrusions into their freedoms and with little resistance. The overt physical coercion that Orwell thought would be required to enslave a society has so far proved unnecessary. Before dismissing Orwell's fears completely, however, it must be noted that Orwell was familiar with Huxley's position, and he did not deny that the hedonistic society Huxley feared was a possibility. But he saw it as a temporary stage, creating the ideal conditions for a more brutal regime to seize control and impose its will on society. Whether Orwell will be proven correct in the end remains to be seen. Yet, as was pointed out, Orwell did not believe the totalitarianism which he feared could emerge in a society without it first becoming collectivist. So perhaps what has prevented his fears from coming true thus far is that capitalism did not die as he believed it would, and collectivism has yet to emerge fully formed in the West.
It's coming though. I seen this quote the other day, and it was funny. It said, "COVID testing is for liberals. COVID testing is the liberal version of Trump rallies." And it was like a video of 4 or 5 blocks of cars just around the line with no symptoms at all, just to get tested. And the 1984 concept or the Brave New World concept, both of them stick out a lot because if you don't read these books, you don't know what's happening. Like I just seen George Orwell, his estate sold the rights to 1984, so it's about to be rewritten from a feminist view of life. And so we got to teach our kids the original cores of Brave New World of 1984, Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson. All of these books that have real knowledge of what's going on in the world today, because history slowly repeats itself. I would challenge anybody to read Hitler's 25-point program. All of these things sound good. I want to take care of everybody and health care for all and free food and free housing and go party. And it's like it all sounds good, but man, I was always taught nothing is free in life. Everyone is paying for it, and it's all coming from somewhere. And I like putting videos out there like this because this is content that you won't get this in public school. You won't get this on mainstream media. But it's all information that we need to know as citizens so we can know what's coming our way. No one wants to be enslaved. No one wants their freedoms and their rights infringed upon. That's why I'm pro Second Amendment. More reaction videos like this to come. We're going to keep dropping knowledge here and there between these music reaction videos. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And then the more you speak your truth, you want to constantly motivate others to do the same. And remember, man, there's no faith needed around you, and there's unlimited faith within you. So keep spreading knowledge, keep getting educated, and think for yourself, man. If you don't do anything else in this world, think for yourself. It's in there.